Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Dorit Kathy Hilton reveals why she didn't pick a side in Kyle Richards' feud with Dorit Kemsley. Kathy Hilton is returning to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills after a season away, but don't expect her to get caught up in her sister Kyle Richards and her co-star's squabbles. The official trailer for Dorit Season 14 dropped last month. It showcased Kyle's confrontation with one-time ally Dorit Kemsley. The pair indulges in various screaming matches in the first footage, leaving their co-stars unsure where to look. Kathy has gotten immersed in the drama in the past, but this time she's taking a backseat. The 65-year-old opened up to page 6 about her decision not to get involved in Kyle's feud with Dorit. "I think with Dorit and Kyle, my feeling is if I get in the middle of something, they're gonna make up and then I'm the bad guy, so Kyle is a big girl, and she knows how to handle herself very well," Kathy affirmed. Kathy also revealed that she would always be there for Kyle whenever she needed her. Kathy thinks Kyle can handle herself on Dorit. Regarding reality TV, Kathy knows that Kyle can handle herself, and does a good job of doing it very well. Of course, Kyle is going into her 14th season as a cast member on the Bravo hit, so Kathy knows her younger sister has a history with feuds. Kathy previously left the show after season 12 when her relationship with Kyle was strained amid a rift with Lisa Rinna. However, the sisters seem to have vowed to avoid each other's arguments to keep their relationship in good shape. As a friend of the Housewives, Kathy won't have to share as much of her life, but we expect her to be present for some of the season's biggest twists and turns. The cast includes Garcelle Beauvais, Erica Jane, Sutton Stracke, and newcomers Bazoma St. John and Jennifer Tilly. Kyle and Dorit's feud threatens to shift dynamics. RHOB's fans were left gobsmacked at the end of season 13 when Kyle and Dorit distanced themselves from each other, and Kyle implied at the reunion that they were never close. This led to questions about whether they were only friendly for the show, and given that the trailer shows them yelling at each other, the drama is set to continue. When Dorit joined the series during season 7, she was unafraid to go against her cast members. As the years progressed, she's become more tame and slipped into the background, so it's a real shocker that she's firing back at Kyle's insults in the trailer. Hopefully, it's a sign of things to come and indicates that we're in for a good season ahead. Kathy Hilton leaned back in her plush chair, taking a moment before she answered the question that had been circling in the press and among fans for months. The question was simple yet loaded. Why hadn't she taken a side in the feud between her sister Kyle Richards and their longtime friend Dorit Kemsley on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? "It's not that I didn't care," Kathy began, her voice as calm as ever. "People always seem to think that because I'm not vocal, I'm indifferent, but sometimes the loudest statement is silence. In the high-stakes world of the Real Housewives, where alliances are as fragile as crystal, Kathy's choice to stay neutral seemed puzzling, but for Kathy, who had been a public figure long before reality TV ever entered the picture, choosing sides wasn't as simple as it seemed. "I'm not in my 20s or 30s anymore," she continued with a soft smile. "I've lived enough to understand that picking sides can sometimes do more harm than good. And honestly, I adore both Kyle and Dorit, and I can see where they're both coming from." It wasn't the first time that drama had brewed between the Richards sisters. Fans knew well that Kathy and Kyle had their share of family issues, some of which had even spilled onto the show. But through thick and thin, Kathy had always been there for her younger sister, quietly supporting her through life's ups and downs. "When it's family," Kathy explained, her blue eyes twinkling with a touch of mischief, "you have to tread carefully. I think people sometimes forget that what they see on camera is just a fraction of our lives. For me, the bond I share with Kyle is more important than any argument that might happen on television." Still, rumors had flown. In an era where social media seems to capture and dissect every whisper, Kathy's neutrality became a mystery, even a scandal of its own. Was she secretly siding with Dorit? Had there been a deeper falling out between her and Kyle? Fans scrutinized every moment, every lingering glance Kathy gave in scenes with Dorit and Kyle, hoping to catch a sign of where her loyalties lay. "Dorit and I have a different kind of friendship than what I share with Kyle," she said. "We're not sisters, but we're close. I've seen how Dorit cares deeply for the people in her life, and she's always been a friend to me. But with Kyle, we're tied by blood, by family history. No one else can understand our family story the way we do. Kyle and Dorit's conflict stemmed from something small, a remark that spiraled, as things often do among the housewives, into a much larger issue. There were accusations, insinuations, and pointed glances that piled up, leading to a tension that felt unbreakable. For Kyle, the disappointment wasn't just in what Dorit had said, it was in the erosion of trust between them. For Dorit, it was the feeling of being misunderstood and unjustly judged by someone she considered family. And in the middle of it all, there was Kathy, unwilling to validate one side over the other. "I know a lot of people who thrive on being in the middle of drama," Kathy said with a laugh, "but I'm just not that person. I'm a mother, a grandmother. I have other priorities. For me, it's about protecting the peace, especially when I care about both people involved." What made Kathy's position even more complex was the way both Kyle and Dorit had come to rely on her. To Kyle, Kathy was the steady rock, the sister who had weathered more than her fair share of storms. And for Dorit, Kathy was a confidant, someone who listened without judgment, who offered advice without strings attached. In both relationships, Kathy had forged a trust that was rare in the Real Housewives world, a place where secrets often seemed like currency. "I think sometimes the hardest thing in life is to step back," Kathy mused, "to let people work out their issues without inserting yourself." I didn't want to interfere in Kyle's relationship with Dorit, or Dorit's friendship with Kyle. They're both strong, intelligent women who can make their own decisions. Some fans interpreted Kathy's silence as a strategic move, a way to keep herself out of the fray and to avoid becoming a target. But for Kathy, it was more about integrity than strategy. She had seen the damage that words could do, especially when spoken out of turn, and she knew that once you took sides, it was nearly impossible to undo the consequences. "There's a line from The Godfather that I always think about," Kathy admitted, surprising her interviewer with a rare moment of candidness. "Don't ever take sides with anyone against the family." "Now, I'm not saying the situation is as intense as The Godfather," she chuckled, "but the principle rings true. Family is complicated, and even when you're mad at each other, you're still family." Kathy knew that both Kyle and Dorit wanted validation. They each wanted her to say, "You're right, and she's wrong." But Kathy also knew that doing so would only create a rift that she couldn't repair. And for her, preserving the relationships mattered more than being right. "I'm not here to judge," she said softly. "I've made my own mistakes, and I know how easy it is to hurt people without meaning to. When I look at Kyle and Dorit, I don't see people who need someone taking sides. I see people who need understanding, who need time to cool off and come back together." Kathy's refusal to pick a side wasn't just about avoiding conflict. It was her way of showing both women that she respected their individual journeys. She believed they could reach a resolution without her interference. "Ultimately, the show is about entertainment," Kathy concluded, her voice filled with the wisdom of someone who has seen it all. "But for me, family isn't entertainment, it's real life. And in real life, sometimes you have to love people from the sidelines, even when you want to jump in and fix things. That's what I've tried to do with Kyle and Dorit. I'm here for both of them, even if it's from a little further away than they might like." As Kathy finished, she paused, looking out the window. She knew her neutrality wouldn't satisfy everyone. Some fans would still speculate, still wonder why she hadn't come down on one side or the other. But for Kathy, peace was worth the ambiguity, worth the occasional misunderstanding. After all, she'd learned long ago that in matters of the heart, and in the dramatic world of the Real Housewives, the path of least resistance was sometimes the wisest choice of all.